Ayesha, good afternoon to you, and I'm sure the Baxter Theatre is certainly a place that holds many memories of Shaleen Surtie-Richards.
Well, Yuveka, this is the place that Shaleen Surtie-Richards called her second home. She staged countless performances here at this theatre, and I'm now joined by somebody who was on stage with her, was a good friend of hers, and somebody who loved her very dearly, and it is an actor called Royston. And I just had a conversation with him a little earlier, and he talked about the times that he spent with Shaleen, and I did say that when I was preparing for this assignment today, I was thinking about adjectives to describe Shaleen, and every time I came up with something, it just felt so inadequate. I thought about, you know, the fact that she was a South African icon of the theatre, the fact that she was this, you know, well-known actress, and also the Queen of Hearts. But I'm now going to ask Royston of his fondest memories of Shaleen Surtie-Richards.
A supreme human being, someone with whom I made immediate contact back in the 80s, in 1987. We were still running an amateur drama group at the Eon Group, putting on productions, and she was interested and was introduced to me, and the first word she said to me was, "Ons gaan lekker saamwerk, né?" And, you know, we worked from that day on. I say it's a 43-year journey. And we started off in Cape Town doing educational theatre. And that, of course, developed into mainstream theatre. And I say, what a journey. I couldn't have been more blessed with such a friend, such a human being. You know, her reach was beyond class and color and religion, because she, when you were with her, and her humanity. She had a wonderful love for people, and that's why I think people were so attracted to her. Where she was, she could hold court with ease and with great humor. So what I hear you say, you know, I've also been looking for superlatives, and there's been so many said of her, you know, the greatest icon, amazing person. But to come down to it, right down, is the core of humanity. She would give if she saw somebody else needed. For example, at a supermarket, one day somebody couldn't pay their groceries and had to put it back, and she said, "No, put it back, put it back, put it back. I'll pay for it." And why did you do it? I could see they needed it. They needed more than me. That was the kind of person she was.
Now, she also bagged dozens of awards, and as you're describing her now, she was just so, you know, I'm also, again, looking for words to describe her. She was a humble person.
Absolutely.
I'd like you to tell me about that very first time that you acted with her on stage.
Well, look, there were many productions. She loved Shakespeare, and I also had a great love for Shakespeare. And like me, and I grew up English speaking. She was Afrikaans speaking. She was afraid. You know, she used to call it groot Engels. But we were going through a period where we did Twelfth Night, we did Midsummer Night's Dream, and Macbeth, and she was cast in it, and she handled it with absolute aplomb. Hoe was my Engels? Ek is mooi, né? You know, the two of us were like children together. We were. You know, when I'd go to Johannesburg, she'd forbid me from staying in a hotel or a guest house. You know, ons gaan saam, and then we'll go and shop, and I'd want to pay my way. right, jy's my gas. And we'd sit in her room on her bed, and we'd drift away. We'd always start a conversation off with, she'd say to me, you know, Roy. I say, what is it, Charlene? Yeah. You know, and then we'd go into, I won't go into it now, but we'd go into deep aspects of life and philosophizing and why we're here. And she had a very simple philosophy of life, just to enjoy it and appreciate life and the people who around her, who loved her, who were her audience, whom she knew she fed with something. Some of us are just blessed, or we're just born with that amazing ability to reach out beyond all boundaries and freely just give of themselves. She gave so much of herself. She gave, and when I say our first big play was Hello in Kubai. It was a big challenge for me as well as an English-speaking person. You know, I had to handle big Afrikaans. And there she was there to help me. I remember she always used to say, daar kom nog een nie. Ek gaan het nie doen. Nee, Royston. You know, that's how she was with me. And we'd have fun about it. Or about the groot Engels.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Royston, I just want to we are here in the Baxter Theatre,
Yes.
and I just want to speak to Fahim Stellenboom just very quickly about, you know, the countless times that Shaleen acted here in this theatre. And as I said earlier, she described the Baxter Theatre as her second home.
Absolutely. So over the years, and certainly in the earlier years, Royston has performed, as he mentioned earlier, on things like Hello in Kubai, ran at the Baxter successfully. This was in the 80s. In 1986, actually, there were productions like Just Like Home, again, which was with Royston and Paul Savage, and it was a huge hit in Edinburgh before it came to the Baxter. And that again was about the same period. And then a few years later she did Juno and the Paycock, of course with big stars like Goliath Davids and Cyril Valentine. And it's incredible because Shaleen has had the way of creeping into audiences' hearts. And I want to endorse what Royston was sort of saying about the human aspect of this, you know, the caring, compassionate aspect of this incredible, you know, iconic actress. You know, and I've said this before. You know, Shaleen was not only that brilliant award-winning actress. You know, she was somebody who cared deeply and engaged with her public and her audiences and her colleagues. You know, she turned to everybody to see how she can be of help and how she can just be present in your company. I feel very privileged that I was able to work with her in more recent years on a production called Scrooge.
But for him, also, the fact that she opened doors for so many people
Absolutely.
to take to the stage and to showcase their talents.
Absolutely. I think that was done, for example, Philosophies, it became a school set work, and I think it still is a school set, but if I'm not if I'm correct. But, you know, so people saw the live performances, and you know, a lot of people know her from television, of course, in her various roles in Egoli and other soapies, but it started out on the stage for her, and this is why there was this thing about this being a second home. And it was, of course, in a very difficult time that the country was going through. This was in the 80s, when apartheid was still with us, you know, and so it meant a lot for her to be able to be present, and there is no experience. There's nothing like the experience of live theatre, and I think artists know that for the most part, and Shaleen was one of those artists who sort of knew that. And as I said, I mean, further testament came when the last production that she did here, a big one, and again, most of them sold out. You know, they were so successful. In 2017, they brought Philosophies back to the Baxter, and she performed in this very theatre to sold-out audiences, and of course to a lot of school kids. So that memory never leaves those kids. You know, they live with that, and years later they would have met Shaleen. Over all these years of that legacy, they would have met Shaleen and sort of thought that, and because of her kind and engaging way with them, that they thought that this was their auntie. You know, and as I was grappling over the last few days, And I kind of have been seeing this, the outpouring of love and interest, and of course today she is getting deservedly sort of the equivalent of a state funeral, provincially done. You realize that she was in many ways, and I would say in some respects, she was that mother of the nation, the mother of the nation, and I think that's what it is that, yes, she was brilliant and she was magnificent on stage, but she also cared, and she kind of, her humanity, as Royston pointed out, is what came through, you know. I mean, she did productions like Scrooge, she did Raunham's script, so she also had different roles and performed different roles. It wasn't just like in the early days, because she did tire of being cast in kind of caricature type roles, you know, so thinking yet again. But that, you know, she was part of making that change, and I'm very pleased that, at least with us, as I said, in the more recent years when she was able to be on stage, Shirley Valentine travelled all over the country for 4 years and sold out everywhere. You know, I spoke to Annie van Grenen, who directed and adapted this production, and it's unbelievable the kind of, you know, that she played in this very theatre, a 680-seater, to sold-out houses, so much so that we brought it back 3 years later, you know, and that was the impact that Shaleen made on audiences.
Fahim Stellenboom, thank you so much for your time. Yuveka, we can go on and on and on talking about Shaleen Surtie-Richards, but of course we know that later today at 2:30 she will be laid to rest at the Durbanville Memorial Park, and of course we will bring you that live.
But Ayesha Ismail there at the Baxter Theatre. Of course, beautiful memories shared there, and whether you knew her personally or you didn't, she has some place in your memory growing up in South Africa.